2024. Brazen suicide bombers targeted a wedding ceremony, funeral, and hospital in a sporadic and coordinated attacks in Goza town of Borno State, which resulted in the unfortunate death of 32 innocent Nigerians so far, leaving scores of other victims wounded with varied degrees of injuries. Also notes that one of the incidents occurred near a busy motor park in Tasha Mararaba, Goza town, and the victims were mainly civilians returning from a wedding ceremony where the assailant was identified to be a young lady in her early 20s. Further notes that these attacks have raised significant concern about the security situation in the region, which has been a flashpoint of terrorist attacks over the years. And this calls for concerted and coordinated efforts of the security agencies to address the state of insecurity in Borno State and other parts of the country experiencing similar situations. Aware that in today's world, asymmetric warfare, whereby its strategy and tactics differ significantly from the normal conventional war, the approach by our security agencies should be significant, scientifically and technologically based with the use of modern software and facilities to fight the menace. Accordingly, observe a minute's silence in honor of those innocent Nigerians who lost their precious lives from this unfortunate incident. 2, urge the National Emergency Management Agency to intensify efforts by providing relief materials to the victims of the attack. And 3, to urge the federal government to direct the security agencies in the country to deploy the use of modern technology in the fight against insurgency and to make concerted efforts in securing the hotspots inhibited by the insurgents, namely the Lake Chad region, 2, the Sambisa forest, and 3, the Mandara Mountains, respectively. Mr. President, these 3 spots are so far now the only black spot of where the insurgents are inhibiting in Borno State. I'm very sure if these 3 black spots are cleared, the end of terrorism in Borno State will definitely be achieved. Finally, Mr. President, I cannot conclude without appreciating the avalanche of condolences, sympathies, calls that I received. And therefore, when I went home, my people asked me to thank you very much for the concern shown, especially Mr. President, who personally got in touch with me to sympathize on these incidents, and also directed the Vice President to immediately go to Goza, where he individually went to see the victims that were evacuated to Maiduguri for treatment. And also your humble self, when the incidents happened, in the night when I informed you, you called me and also supported me by even offering to get me to Maiduguri by whatever means. The DSP were together at ECOWAS Parliament, and he too showed concern. All my colleagues, virtually all my colleagues called me individually and in group, the Northern Senators Forum, the Southern Senators Forum, other individuals showed sympathy and concerted condemnation of this act. I believe that with this display of solidarity, if the Nigerian Army is provided with the necessary tools and equipment, and I must also mention here, this time around, the Nigerian Army and other security forces responded promptly and gallantly. In fact, one soldier lost his life and a civilian JTF when they confronted the 5th suicide bomber that detonated the bomb and killed the three of them there. One was a soldier. And mostly, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, that soldier that sacrificed his life was from the south. It is very, I have to mention this because that is the greatest sacrifice one can make. And in fact, that was what led to getting that incident immediately to an end, because they succeeded in arresting one of the last suicide bomber. She's now under interrogation. I must mention here again that these people are already, indoctrinated. All of them their hairs were braided, and they had this melee, and they are confident that they are going to heaven if they detonate and kill the people. In fact, the last woman that was arrested, up to now, the interrogation has not brought out so much because she's still insisting that she wants to go to heaven, and that is by killing people and detonating the bomb. So, Mr. President, as I said, the black spots are 3. What needs to be done can be achieved if the Nigerian Army are given specific instruction and attention and provided with what they need, particularly drones and other technologically driven gadgets, in order to get rid of these 3 black spots. Once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and once also thank my distinguished colleagues for the support, sympathy that I have been pouring in since the incident happened. I so move.
And I represent Yobe North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I join my colleagues who spoke earlier to condole and commiserate with our brother, colleague and friend, Senator Ahmad Alindume, his senatorial district, and government and people of Borno State. Mr. President, I want to refer particularly to the last prayer, the third prayer. The third prayer is about the deployment of technology. But before then, one question we should ask ourselves as a parliament: is there anything that is worthy of significant investments by the Nigerian government today, other than the security of the people of Nigeria? Is there? There isn't, is the question. Because any other thing that we wish for ourselves, that we hope and pray for our country, revolves around the security of the people and their property. I will therefore urge us and the executive arm of government to prioritize how we invest. Mr. President, I support construction of roads, but today what Nigeria needs is to secure their lives. So we should take it as a priority that when we appropriate, henceforth, real investment must be made in the armed forces and other security agencies. Mr. President, last month I attended an exhibition of new technologies for defense across the world in Paris. And today, the drones particularly can be sufficiently and significantly utilized to help our armed forces fight not only in the northeast against insurgents, but also the banditry in the northwest, north central, and other criminal tendencies in the southern part of the country. So I believe that we should prioritize providing funds for our armed forces to have the right kind of technology that they need. I will also really commend the armed forces that we have, because they still try to do much with the little that they get from us. But I believe a time has come that we look at spending more to secure our people than providing maybe for roads and some other investments that can easily be positively really influenced by providing security in the country. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the privilege.
And my very distinguished colleagues, it is a sad day and it's a period of moment of reflection, because we are talking about insecurity. If I had my way, I would have suggested that all proceedings be suspended today in honor of the innocent Nigerians that were killed by these incredible acts of embarrassment caused in Borno. As a matter of fact, Mr. President, just recalling Thomas Hobbes here, is looking day and day that life of man is short, brutal, and terribly embarrassing if the Leviathan refuses to respond to the insecurity going on day by day, particularly in Nigeria. And this can be very, very dangerous. Living with insecurity is gradually becoming the only way to understand security. And we cannot allow this trend to continue because of the danger that is portrayed. I don't want to take much of your time, but I will say clearly, it costs nothing for the intelligent army to get devices in their phone to know where these notorious criminals live. As I'm here, I check my phone regularly and I know the number of guns that are very close to me here. This is just less than 1,000 installation. Within us now, there are over 277 guns around there. And just because an armory is close to this place. So what am I saying? We can use technology, just like distinguished Senator Dume have said, to deploy to these soldiers rather using hands and all this unknown strategy. Prof, yes, sir.
You know you have PhD in warfare.
Yes.
Do you know out of the 277 guns around you here now?
Yes, 277 guns close to you within a radius of 1 kilometer. The probability that half of them have gun is 1. And that is dangerous. And we need to find out the source of those guns. But because I can locate that I'm more close to us and very close to Villa, then I understand we are safe. I want to say very clearly that the military should stop using unconventional strategy to fight insurgency in Nigeria. There's a distinction between conventional strategy and unconventional strategy. We need to go to unconventional strategy to fight unconventional war. Boko Haram is unconventional war. It's not a conventional war. We're all aware of what happened in Kenya. We cannot close our eyes. We need to wake up. So I finally suggest to you, Mr. Senate President and my distinguished colleagues, that this Senate, under your leadership, sir, must have a closed door meeting for one day and then use that the whole day to discuss security matters. Our life is very important. The life of man cannot be said to be short, brutish, and unproductive if we do nothing about insecurity. Living with insecurity cannot be the only way to understand security. We shouldn't get to that. Once again, distinguished Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I thank you. Like I said, to me, it's a sad day. I don't think we can eat. We could actually close proceedings today in honor of those people. How can you be going for a wedding and you don't even know what happened? Somebody just put bomb and attack the convoy, and people have started dying. It's sad, it's painful, it's uncalled for, it's unacceptable, and it's rejected in the totality of this formulation. Eliminate. Thank you, Mr. President.
My distinguished colleagues, some of the things that we have said here, Mr. President, are for purposes of emphasis. And when critical matters like this come, we have one thing to say or the other. And sometimes we say, without sounding like a broken record, we want to make certain contributions. So, Mr. President, actually, I've been meaning to make a contribution on this matter because it's a security matter. And if you note where I come from, we have had issues of security challenges and the death of people. And Mr. President, my concern here is the fact that everything that we keep talking about security here is in reaction to attacks on communities. It's in reaction to death of people. Mr. President, I think we must change the narrative and the trajectory on which we approach the issue of security. Let me therefore extend my very heartfelt condolences to the people of Borno State, and in particular the people of Goza. Those of us who have followed the insecurity situation in the northeast, particularly in Borno State, know that Goza has been at the receiving end of attacks by Boko Haram insurgents. And so, Mr. President, if we have been talking about insecurity, government out, government in, week out, week in, month in, month out, year in, year out, and we are still confronted with the menace of frequent attacks on our communities and the killing of vulnerable, defenseless civilians, then, Mr. President, we want to ask ourselves salient questions and then appeal to government to take the bull by the horn and be the government that will solve the problem of insecurity in Nigeria. Mr. President, I don't want to believe that our military that have been drafted into this war do not know what to do. Be it a symmetric war or a conventional war, they are all mere semantics. The fact is that it's a war. And soldiers are trained to fight wars, whether it is asymmetric or conventional. And I don't want to think that appealing to the soldiers to deploy technology is the answer to the question, because they are trained to identify wars and to deploy appropriate mechanisms to solving the problems of war. And so, Mr. President, I think we want to challenge the Nigerian military. We cannot continue talking about insecurity, particularly the Northeast, particularly Goza, like I said, that has had a receiving end of this insurgency. So let's think that for once, we make a very passionate appeal to this government. Let this government be the government that will end insecurity in Nigeria. I so submit, Mr. President.
Between now and the next 2-3 hours, people will keep repeating themselves. The heinous crime, very sad incidents, horrific as it is, a resurgence of a very serious angle to banditry and then Boko Haram, and then of course our sympathies and commiserations go to the good people of Borno State and Goza in particular, and the Senate's Chief Whip. So the Chief Whip of the Senate, let me thank you for bringing this up. When that incident happened, many Nigerians were not able to sleep well. And because insecurity in any part of the nation is insecurity everywhere. So I believe together you heard your colleagues, the actions that took place are very condemnable. But then, something that you brought up, which was important, is that it is not that the security agencies did not react, that one of them even paid the supreme sacrifice. And then also they were able to apprehend the last suicide bomber, who is now providing insights into the plans that they have, and then insisting that she should be allowed to go and detonate the bomb for her to go to heaven. So it's both psychological, mental, as well as physical. So the police cannot be everywhere. The federal government cannot enter every traditional gathering in the country and every wedding. But at least we have brought up something very serious here, that we should also employ a lot of technology. The technology don't need to be physically there. We can monitor from miles away to know when there is likely going to be an infraction in security. And also, what happened there could also be described as failure of intelligence. Because we have so many suicide bombers gathering together, it means we've not penetrated their camps. Otherwise, we would have known that they were going to strike. So preventive security must also be emphasized. So I thank all my colleagues for their contributions, and I pray that let us go into the prayers, and then from there we can proceed solutions that could help us to stem the tide of this current resurgence. Thank you, the Chief Whip, and please accept my personal condolence on the losses. Prayer 1. Observe a minute silence in honor of those innocent Nigerians who lost their lives from these unfortunate bombings. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Urge the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to intensify efforts by providing relief materials to the victims of the various attacks aforementioned. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. Urge the federal government of Nigeria to direct the security agencies in the country to deploy the use of modern technology in this fight against insurgency and banditry, to make concerted efforts in securing the hotspots inhabited by the insurgents, clearly named Lake Chad region, Sambisa Forest, and Mandara Mountains. Those in support of prayer.
Amendment, sir.
Yeah? Somebody said something?
Yes, sir. Amendment to prayer 3. Sir.
Amendment or additional prayer? Because prayer 3 seems very straightforward. You can bring additional prayer. Prayer 3 says we should all the federal government of Nigeria to direct the security agencies to deploy the use of modern technology in the fight against insurgency, banditry, and the Boko Haram. And then another aspect of prayer 3 is that they should also make concerted efforts to secure the hotspots inhabited by the insurgents, which are known, such as Lake Chad region, Sambisa Forest, and Mandara Mountains. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, who wanted to do additional prayer? Senator.
Permit me to extend my condolences to the families of those who died through the heinous act committed by suicide bombers that detonated bombs in several places in Goza area of Borno State. Mr. President, this is a desperate action by terrorists who do not mean well for our country. The fact is this. The fact is that they are so desperate, and it clearly shows that they've been defeated because they no longer have the capacity to use weapons to fight our military. So they now decided to use suicide bombers to kill and maim our people. This is sad. This is very sad. I want to commend our men in uniform, men and women in uniform, who have been doing very well to protect us. It shows that the work they are doing is yielding results because they feel, the terrorists, that they can no longer fight them. And that's why they've resorted to these acts of using suicide bombers. What I want to add here is that We call on them not to rest on their oars. We call on them to put more grease onto their elbows, to continue to fight until these people can no longer even use the suicide bombers. I also want to call on Mr. President to continue what he's doing. I know what he's doing. I know he's meeting every day, he's working, having sleepless night to show that, to make sure that this country becomes safe from terrorists and bandits. And it clearly, what happened in Woza last week demonstrates that the entire thing that has been done by Mr. President and his team is really resolved, because these people feel that they can no longer fight using weapons. Thank you. So what we need to do is to find a way to make sure that they cannot use the suicide bombers any longer, using devices that can detect those that have been are ready to kill themselves in order to kill others, to detect them so that they can no longer use suicide bombers to kill and maim our people. I commend Senator Ndebe for bringing forward this motion, and I also commend all those who contributed in this in the debate in this motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
My name representing Edo South Senatorial District. Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. President. This incident is a is an awful one for two reasons. One, it happened on my birthday, June 29th, and that is so unfortunate. And secondly, in a city where I was trained, where I attended the university, and this is one incident too many. For me, we have had so many closed-door meetings on security. It seems to me that we seem to be doing one thing over and over again. What baffles me and continues to baffle me is that we wait until incidents like this happen before we take the fight to them. When it seems to be quiet, that is when I think that the security should get busy to go after these insurgents. It appears that our security networks either is not spread wide enough or the intelligence is failing. Otherwise, we should take this fight to them. It is not when they attack us. We should look for them wherever they are. They don't live, they are not spirits. These are human beings as well. And I think that the security agencies should sit tight with their intelligence and get busy. And we don't have to wait until they attack us before we respond. We should always look for them wherever they are. I don't want to make any example. Something happened like this in Egypt, in Israel, and we know what happened. The whole country went ahead to look for the last man that did it. They didn't wait until it happens again. So we should begin to take this security very seriously, because the life of a Nigerian is an important life to all of us. And we have, and we owe it a duty to safeguard not just properties, but lives of Nigerians. So, Mr. President, in addition to the prayers, we urge that the security network, the intelligence should be strengthened, and they should go after these insurgents even when they have not attacked us, so that we can actually decimate them. This issue of fire brigade response is not going to solve our problem. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, the issue of violence in Nigeria is not a new one. And over again, we seem to forget that all these disgruntled elements, groups in various parts of the world, various parts of Nigeria, from east to west, have their reasons for doing what they are doing. Mr. President, I think time has come for us to begin to address the fundamental reasons why people are disgruntled, why people are unhappy, why people are willing to kill themselves. You can just imagine a lady who is probably a mother with children deciding to end her own life. What will make a woman to do that? We should talk less now about the military and arming the military. We've been doing that for years, and it has not changed anything. What we must do at this point is to convene this Senate, this National Assembly must convene some conference and invite all the leaders, traditional rulers, local government chairmen, political leaders, all the stakeholders, and get them together. And we must begin to dialogue. We must begin to know why they are killing each other. Why? Because the fact remains that, yes, we mobilize soldiers, they go and kill them, and they in turn will plan, maybe it could take them another 6 months to remobilize and come and also kill our soldiers and our men. So I think time has come for us to convene a conference of sorts that is anchored by National Assembly to begin to find out some permanent solutions to all these killings. It doesn't want too many. And I'm sure my colleagues here will agree with me that this is the best way forward. It's not about the millions or billions that's been spent in arming the military, because the military are also being killed. We are not, as Jim Ibrahim said, Senator Jim Ibrahim, this is not conventional warfare. They have ideas. The ideas are based on ideologies, and you can't kill it with bullets. So time has come for us to take the leadership of this National Assembly and deal with these issues once and for all. Thank you, Mr. President.
This is Senator
Victor Ume. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rise to say that we can deploy soldiers, we can deploy technology, we can do all these things, but if we cannot train the mind, these things will continue to happen. Suicide bombing can only be perpetrated by a mind that is not developed. When I listened to Senator Lawan, he said that one of the purveyors of the bomb was asked why she was doing this, and she said that she was told that she would go to heaven. A trained mind will ask the person sending her on the mission, why are you not carrying out this mission so that you go to heaven? I therefore think that instead of thinking about how to use technology and the soldiers to fight terrorists, we should deploy education. If we educate young people, we'll be in a position to keep them out of some of these things that embarrass us. In my condolence message to the people of Borno State, in our platform, Senators' platform, I call for reorientation of our youths by our religious leaders. Young girls that were hired to go and commit this act with a promise that they will go to heaven, if they were educated, they will not embark on that mission. This Borno State we are talking about have so many educated people. I don't want to accept that educating our young people in that belt will be difficult. I understand that Boko Haram is no to Western education. That's the meaning of Boko Haram. But that area has produced so many brilliant minds, senior advocates of Nigeria. Even Senator Tahir Mungoloria is a brilliant legal mind, and he hails from that state. The government should do the right thing. If we invest on education, the governor should take education as a priority, so that no matter how difficult it is to impact education on our young people, they should go all the hog to ensure that education is provided to our young people coming up, so that this thing can be turned from having minds that are liberated through superstition, because nobody can believe this, but when you kill another person, you go to see God. So I am saying that even at the prayers in the motion I have looked at, yes, we are talking about fighting those who will go, mobilizing people who will go and get people and stop this. These are young girls, teenagers have been brainwashed to go and carry bomb and embrace people and kill people and go to heaven. So this is the root of the problem. We have to ensure that the government is directed and urged to go and provide education to our young people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
My distinguished colleagues, I'm Abdulaziz Musa Radwa, representing the people of Katsina Central. I want to align myself with all those that spoke on this motion and to also condole our brother, distinguished Senator Ndume, for this unfortunate incident. Mr. President, I want to also align myself with the issue of technology and the need for us to prioritize security. It is very important to understand that the armed forces and the security agencies are doing their best, and we must commend them for what they are doing. However, it's important for us as a parliament, as mentioned by distinguished Senate President Emeritus, on the need to see how we can ensure that we provide all that is required for the armed forces and the security agencies to enable them fight this battle. What is important now is for the security agencies to go back to their security procedures so that this issue of suicide bombing does not spread, especially to the Northwest. Because if the bandits in the Northwest now adopt this strategy, it is going to be more dangerous. As I'm talking to you, Mr. President, a lecturer was killed yesterday at the Federal University, Dusama. His children and others within the vicinity, about 5 or 6 of them have been abducted and are with these bandits. So it is important that the armed forces and the security agencies go back to the security procedures that have assisted in nipping in the bud the suicide bombing that has been consigned to the dustbin before. So I want to thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity and distinguished colleagues.
Distinguished Sunday Steve, I represent the people of Kogi West. Mr. President, much has been said about the ugly situation and the need for us to bring in technology to solve some of the problems. But I want to also say something, sir, that having good roads will also, in some cases, solve security problems. That, especially where we have bad roads, it encourages kidnappers to do the operation easily. When we have good roads, it will also help in most part of the country, especially in my senatorial district. If we have good roads, it will solve most of the kidnapping problems we have in our area. So we have to weigh both sides, invest in security, invest in good road, and that will help the security situation that we have in our country. Thank you, sir.
I speak for Akwa Ibom South. Let me readily convey the very deep sympathies of Akwa Ibom South to the people of Borno State over this tragedy. This has signposted a resurgence in some measure. We are beginning to hear some sigh of relief But what took place in Borno State has jolted us, has jolted our sensibilities that the bad times are back. My heart bleeds for that section of Nigeria. But let me make it very clear that this is not just a tragedy for Borno State, it is a tragedy for Nigeria. It is a tragedy for Akwa Ibom, it is a tragedy for Ukana, it is a tragedy for Lagos State. Because when an incident as tragic as this unfolds in one part of the country, it reverberates, it affects the other parts of the country. A lot has been said about the need to redirect our minds, especially the minds of our youth, the need for technology. But let me add that one trajectory that we must always be alive to is that security is everybody's concern. We must not leave this important assignment only to the government. Everybody must be involved. It is painful that these youths are being brainwashed. Some of them that when they undertake this very risky enterprise, they will end up in heaven. Some are being told that they will meet virgins in heaven. Some of them are being told, the men, the youth among them, that they will meet some in heaven, some on letter notes, as magnetic as Natasha as it were. So let me join our colleagues to underscore the type of opinion that we need to do more for our security. Our security agencies have worked very hard. They are doing very well. But we must not leave these assignments only to them. We need to do more to own up our security architecture, knowing that this is a collective concern. We need to educate our young minds more. We need to educate ourselves that we cannot go back to the very dark past. So on behalf of Akwa Ibom South, we convey our very deep sympathies to the people of Borno State and challenge Nigerians to re-educate ourselves and to be alive to the very serious challenges that security poses in this country. Thank you. On behalf
of Lagos West. Well, my sincere condolences to the people of Goza and the entire Borno State. It is most unfortunate that we are back on this part again, this part of sadness, of sorrow, of mourning. We pray that God in His mercy will grant those who died peace, and also the injured, we pray that they also get back in good time. Sir, I want to say that it's quite unfortunate that we are back, but I recall that before the bombing subsided, they discovered a bombing manufacturing company, or sort of, in Borno State then. And the military were able to take over that particular company or site. I want to say for them to come back at this rate, it means somehow that company or that manufacturing site is back again within them in Borno State. And I wish that members of the community, members of the society, would pay attention to what's happening around them. For them to be able to discover this site again, it is the responsibility of everybody in Borno State. That is one thing I would like all of us to take note of. And secondly, sir, advocacy, awareness, and provision of chiefs to members of the community. Maybe we have relaxed a bit as to the ones that we were doing earlier. I knew that we have pamphlets, we have things that they were distributing, even for those of us who are not even from that region. So I think the government should please not relax, not assume that everybody is aware of what is going on. they should begin the advocacy, create awareness, and give the people tips what they should look out for. If you see a suicide bomber, what are the things that will be those things that you should watch out for? That is very important. That it not be shared not only amongst themselves on their radio, on their TV. This is something they must spread, and for people to be aware of and be able to tackle it in the board. And lastly, sir, for Sambisa, Mayada Mountain, and all other sites that have been identified, this is a special assignment also for our committee of defense here, and our committee, all of the military, Navy, Army, all of them, to please pass this message to the top hierarchy of the military, for them to, not that they don't know, I know they are aware that this site are there, but can we take concrete steps to ensure that we pay particular attention to this so that we can dislodge those who are coming to harm our people? Yes, that is something that we must do, and all of us members of this committee must take it as a responsibility to continue to liaise with top military authority that something must be done about this. Distinguished member, we cannot continue to have suicide bombing amongst us. This is something that not only that the Senate have in the past assigned quite a amount of money to. How this is spent, we must look into it. Not only how it is spent, we must also see that they are able to justify what this money that we have budgeted for the military, how much they've spent, and how much they are now intending or they wish to set aside for the technology. It is important that we must do it as a body, as a Senate. Thank you. I so submit.
Between now and the next 2-3 hours, people will keep repeating themselves. It's heinous crime, very sad incidents, horrific as it is, a resurgence of a very serious angle to banditry and then Boko Haram, and then of course our sympathies and commiserations go to the good people of Borno State and Gosa in particular, and the Chief Whip. So the Chief Whip of the Senate, let me thank you for bringing this up. When that incident happened, many Nigerians were not able to sleep well. And because insecurity in any part of the nation is insecurity everywhere. So I believe together you heard your colleagues, the actions that took place are very condemnable, but then something that you brought up which was important is that it is not that the security agencies did not react, that one of them even paid the supreme sacrifice, and then also they were able to apprehend the last suicide bomber who is now providing insights into the plans that they have, and then insisting that she should be allowed to go and detonate the bomb for her to go to heaven. So it's both psychological, mental, as well as physical. So the police cannot be everywhere. The federal government cannot enter every traditional gathering in the country and every wedding. But at least we have brought up something very serious here, that we should also employ a lot of technology. The technology don't need to be physically there. We can monitor from miles away to know when there is likely going to be an infraction in security. And also, what happened there could also be described as failure of intelligence. Because we have so many suicide bombers gathering together, it means we've not penetrated their camps. Otherwise, we would have known that they were going to strike. So preventive security must also be emphasized. So I thank all my colleagues for their contributions, and I pray that let us go into the prayers
and then from there we can proceed solutions that could help us to stem the tide of this current resurgence. Thank you, the Chief Whip, and please accept my personal condolence on the losses. Prayer 1. Observe a minute silence in honor of those innocent Nigerians who lost their lives from these unfortunate bombings. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. Urge the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to intensify efforts by providing relief materials to the victims of the various attacks aforementioned. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. Urge the federal government of Nigeria to direct the security agencies in the country to deploy the use of modern technology in this fight against insurgency and banditry, to make concerted efforts in securing the hotspots inhabited by the insurgents, clearly named Lake Chad region, Sambisa Forest, and Mandara Mountains. Those in support of prayer.
Amendment, sir.
Yeah? Somebody say something?
Yes, sir. Amendment to prayer 3. Sir.
Amendment or additional prayer? Because prayer 3 seems very straightforward. You can bring additional prayer. Prayer 3 says we should urge the federal government of Nigeria to direct the security agencies to deploy the use of modern technology in the fight against insurgency, banditry, and the Boko Haram. And then another aspect of prayer 3 is that they should also make concerted efforts to secure the hotspots inhabited by the insurgents, which are known, such as Lake Chad region, Sambisa Forest, and Mandara Mountains. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, who wanted to do additional prayer? Senator.
Previous service chiefs diverted money to build universities in their various communities. Those are the kind of resources that should have been used to procure modern technology. And to think that money was being diverted to non-essentials. And as we speak, those institutions are not teaching anything about security. They are just another glorified university. I think that this house, having the power to appropriate, we should focus strictly on the items that the Army and the Air Force and other security agencies are going to spend the money to do. Otherwise, everybody knows we need modern technology. This house, under your leadership, we have provided supplementary appropriation to the armed forces. Throwing money at a problem will solve it. We must assist them to redirect their procurement policies to focus on this technology. Otherwise, we can decline to approve appropriation if the details are not such that those managing the system will use the money strictly in a manner that we do justice to our collective feeling about redirecting and moving more and more towards technology. This is my additional prayer, Mr. President. It can be worded more elegantly, but I just believe that we need to tie the hands of the procurement people to procure more and spend more in those areas that the armed forces competence will be better enhanced.
The only problem with it is the allegation that previous service chiefs diverted money to build universities. Did they build personal universities or public universities?
President, they built, if half of those money was used to strengthen NDA in terms of competence of the men, and the rest used to procure modern technology for the armed forces, the armed forces would have been far more competent. Somebody talked about how Israel reacted. I'm not sure it's something I want to debate, but they reacted with technology, with men and women well trained. Not creating mushroom educational institutions, each service chief, they started them in their own villages. That did not coincide with the priorities of the armed forces. Just last year when we were doing the supplementary budget, we saw that the Navy even appropriate money to buy a yacht. That is why the oversight responsibility of this Senate is extremely important, to prevent the armed forces to prioritize in a manner that coincides with what we think the Nigerian Army should be doing. Thank you, sir.
Any seconder to the additional prayer?
Yes. Senator Neda Emaswa, Edo South, Senatorial District. I stand to second the additional prayers ably moved by Senator Aliu, Adams, Eric, Oshimale. I so second. The military should be directed to the core values, to the core mandates, which is to protection and procurement of materials and instruments that will aid them in securing our country rather than building universities or procuring yachts.
Okay, noted. So, distinguished colleagues, proposed by distinguished Senator Adams Oshimole is to the effect that we should mandate our Senate committees on defense, Navy, Air Force, Army, and other related security agencies to oversight all appropriations to the armed forces to avoid diversion of such monies from procurements of necessary tools to fight insurgents into unnecessary construction of universities in various domains of the armed forces chiefs. This prayer has been seconded. Those in support of the prayer say aye. Those against say nay. Let me take it again. The prayer is that all the Senate committees on defense, Navy, Air Force, and Army should immediately oversight and monitor that all appropriations made by this hallowed chamber are not diverted by the service chiefs to construction of universities in their communities as happened in the past, but rather injected into the purchase of weaponry and technological equipment meant to fight insurgencies. This prayer has been seconded. Those in support of this additional prayer say aye. Aye. And those against say nay. Okay. The nays have it. Yes,
additional prayers.
So, those in support of the prayer are seconded say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Colleagues, may we rise to observe a minute silence in honor of the departed souls.
Additional prayer.
May the souls of all those who lost their lives in the unfortunate sporadic bombings in Koza in Borno State rest in perfect peace.